Welcome aboard the Argent 3. Take a seat, shut up, and listen. Space is a hell of a thing, but you need to be sure that this is what you want. Like, what you really want. The idea of space exploration to further the frontiers of mankind is noble, but let's not kid ourselves. It's really all about furthering the profit margins. There's money to be made out there, and it's the place to make it. But you hear all kinds of stories, malfunctions, strange discoveries, crew members going insane. You'll be out there in the reaches alone for months or years, breathing recycled air, drinking recycled water, with nothing but a few feet of metal and shield in between you and certain death. Are you sure this is what you want? Hello and welcome to my review of Those Dark Places, a game by Jonathan Hicks and published by Osprey Games. They've explained it as a rules-light, story-focused role-playing game about the darker side of space exploration and the people who travel the stars in claustrophobic, dangerous conditions. Now this is a great little game for playing in settings from films such as Alien, Outland, Silent Running, Disney's Black Hole, Darkstar, Pandurom, The Thing, Event Horizon. I think you could even use it for something like Passengers, the TV show The Expanse, and other such game genres, for example Dead Space. Now all of these have been hinted at or directly quoted as inspiration by Jonathan Hicks. And I have to say, for sci-fi, my go-to RPG is normally Traveller, particularly the little black books format. But that's for a more sort of episodic space opera sort of game. So my other go-to game for like one-shots or short-run sessions is Mothership. And there's a whole load of other games that you could potentially use, for example the official Aliens game. Now I would say Dark Places is much more in the ballpark of Mothership. It's a small book with very, very light rules, and it's really, really good for one-shots. It's beautifully produced, but the rules are ultra light. When you do your character generation, you create a case file where you allocate 1, 2, 3 or 4 to an attribute, and your 4 attributes are charisma, agility, strength and education. You'll then pick a primary and secondary profession, giving you a +2 or +1 bonus if you're using effectively a skill that profession gives you. And the posts are very typically sort of sci-fi, almost Star Trek like. You've got helm, navigation, engineering, science, liaison, security or medical. Now the actual whole game runs off the odds system, I believe it's called. The one die determines success. And basically you roll a d6, add your attribute, add your profession bonus if applicable, add an equipment bonus if applicable, which I believe is a +1 bonus, and you need to beat a target number, typically 7, but it could be 6 or 8. And you either fail or succeed, or if you roll exactly like a 7, for example, then you succeed, but it's a yes but success, which is quite interesting. Combat is fairly abstract. Any damage goes to your strength, which means that you're going to get weaker and weaker, and if you've allocated a 1 to your strength, well, 1 hit's pretty much going to take you out. If you've allocated 4, you're going to take a little bit longer to be taken out, and I believe at 0 you pass out, and something like -2 you start dying, and if you've got a strength of 4, that potentially would be after 4 rounds you bleed out and are dead. So combat is really, really lethal. So as you can see from those basic setup, it's a brutal game with very simple light rules. Now to add to a bit of the complexity, you've got this thing called the pressure system, effectively a sanity check. If you've got too much pressure, you're going to flip out and have an episode, and that can have ongoing effects. And basically if you receive a shock, you try and roll over a target number of 10. If you fail, your pressure level goes up by 1. You then have to do a check to see if you flip out and have an episode. And obviously as your pressure level goes up, the more likely you are to flip out. And if you get to a pressure level of 7, you're automatically going to flip out because you can't roll over a 7 on a d6. Character progression is not really present. Basically, you are just merely trying to survive 25 years. So the potential issues with this book is that it's extremely light, extremely light. It's got a very loose definition of the setting and any equipment that you might have. You're only going to be rolling 1d6 for tests, which may or may not be in your ballpark. There's very poor progression rules, as I say. Mothership does a much better job at having a sort of an ongoing campaign sort of engine. And I guess you could accuse it of having a lot of style over substance. So if you want a bit more meat, then other games are probably going to suit you. But for one-shots, this game is so simple, so easy to pick up, I think it's going to be really good. So the very light rules engine means it's easy to learn and run, so that's a bonus as well as a disadvantage. The loose definition and setting, again, is a bonus because it's wide open. You can use it to play Event Horizon or Pandurom or Outland, or almost anything you can think of that is in this sort of sci-fi industrial gritty universe. You could probably even do Star Wars with it if you really wanted to. Now there is talk of possibly other books coming out which might tap into the playtest rules that I saw back from 2009, where it had a bit more detail about creating star systems and building spaceships and stuff, because I believe in an interview Jonathan Hicks did talk about how the game was bigger and it's been shrunk down and simplified and streamlined, and some people probably would accuse it of being over streamlined. So if you want a more space opera campaign game, Traveller is still probably going to be your best bet. Mothership is the closest competitor to Dark Places, but I think does give you a little bit more. However, what this game has that gives it a really strong advantage is it's pretty cheap. It's by Osprey Games, so it's really good production quality. And if you want an Aliens or Outland sort of game, this fits the bill without having to spend a fortune and learn lots of heavy lifting rules. So my overall verdict on this game is basically buy it because it's cheap and simple. Avoid it if you want a bit more crunch or you want to play long multi-month campaigns. If you're going to play 3 or 4 back-to-back sessions, it's fine. But an 18-month campaign, you might find it's a bit lacking as it stands at the moment. But bear in mind they are talking about maybe bringing out some expansions, but that is very much a thinking about rather than a commitment as far as I'm aware. So my overall rating on this game, I would say Traveller's a 9 out of 10. Mothership's an 8.5 to 9 out of 10. I put this at a solid 8. For one shots, a 9.5. But yeah, the production quality is top notch. The illustrations are really evocative. The way the book is written is fantastic, although it's sort of more like someone's talking to you rather than actually a rule book, which may or may not be in your wheelhouse. So there you go. Hopefully that's given you enough idea to decide whether you should pick this up. Now at a tenner, which I believe you can get the hardback off Amazon for, well worth it. And I actually had a discount code, so I got it for less than a tenner. Really happy. At the original price of 18-20 quid, still bargain in RPG terms, but a bit pricey. So if you can get it for under £14, I think it's worth picking up. If the PDF was available for a £5, definitely grab it. It's got some really nice ideas, and it's something that's so simple you can build on it to add crunch, to add that detail quite easily. So overall, I recommend, but with some caveats. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this quick little video. Until the next one, happy gaming.